Hello everyone. Welcome to the diploma course in the teaching of English. My name is Dr. Ganga Mehto and I am an assistant professor in English at NCRT. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic called learning teaching materials or LTM. Learning teaching materials or LTM are pivotal in making learning interesting and fun. They help learners and teachers understand and explain abstract ideas through easy to understand symbols, objects, working models, or images. They are the tools that empower teachers to convert abstract concepts of textbooks into workable and concrete objects that learners can see and experience. Use of LTM makes the teaching learning process easy, enjoyable, and effective as it promotes the idea of learning by doing, making learning a fun filled activity. Every teacher should know how to prepare valuable, new, and innovative LTMs using low cost or no cost materials and use them in teaching learning processes. Let us briefly talk about the history of learning teaching materials. Initially, teaching aids have been used as aids for teaching for a long time. Then the phrase teaching aids was replaced with teaching learning materials, which included all the teaching materials that teacher uses in teaching learning process in the classroom. The term was used for decades when they understood that it was a very teacher centric and teaching centric. Recently, it has been decided to make TLM, teaching learning materials, more learner and learning centric and wanted to put the term learning before teaching. Hence, they started using the term learning teaching materials or LTMs, which covers broad spectrum of materials, equipments and other aids that facilitate classroom processes. Now the question is, does a so-called dedicated teacher need a teaching aid or learning teaching material in the classroom? Perhaps the answer is yes. What is the best teaching aid a mother has? Stories, anecdotes, examples, her own personality, communicative ability, etc. Over a while, with the world becoming more materialistic and knowledge expanding exponentially, these concepts developed into appropriate teaching aids. The National Education Policy 2020 emphasizes toy-based pedagogy, art-integrated learning, and experiential learning. Learning teaching materials are central to these pedagogies as they will be very useful in making learning fun-filled activity. Now let us touch upon the history of how TLMs evolved over the years. In the initial days, teaching aids consisted of using models, a globe, map, charts, toys, real objects, etc. Very soon, these gave place to equipment that could help us to listen or see. We had electrical apparatus such as slide projectors, tape recorders, cinema projectors, overhead projectors or OHP, and other similar devices. With the coming of computers, most of these pieces of equipment become obsolete. Computers become a piece of versatile audio visual equipment that could bring the outside world into the classroom. Computers successfully replaced radio, television, VCR, etc., branded as hot mediums. Now let us talk some features of good learning teaching materials. The first one is cost effectiveness. Low cost teaching aids are welcome and no cost teaching aids are preferred. Teachers can also create best learning teaching materials from waste products. The LTMs made using discarded, readily available, biodegradable, recyclable and eco-friendly objects should be preferred. We should ascertain that materials are either discarded products or products readily available in nature like dry leaves, the bark of trees, sticks, and so on. Even if it is required to purchase some raw materials, the cost should be so minimal that everyone can easily afford them, like a needle, thread, pencil, etc. It is to be ensured to use eco-friendly and easily biodegradable materials or other non-biodegradable products which should not harm people and our environment. Teachers should involve learners in a school in selecting and collecting the materials to be used. This involvement will create a sense of belongingness to the LTM by the learners. The second feature of a good LTM is portability. The LTM should also be learner friendly, age and level appropriate, and easy to be carried and used. An extensive working model cannot be carried inside a classroom and is rarely used. On the other hand, a small working model can be easily carried inside the classroom and used effectively. Hence, the portability or mobility of teaching learning material should be considered before making them. The LTMs that can be neatly packed inside a small box or carried inside the classroom with pride are the most easily used LTMs. The third feature of a good LTM is the stage of use. As teachers, we should also be aware of the stage of learning where the learning teaching material is to be used. Should it be used as a warm-up activity in the beginning of a class, as a demonstration model to explain the concepts in the middle of the class, or as practice activity to conceptualize the topic towards the end? Some LTMs can be used in more than one stage. In such cases, the teachers can use it in the best suitable stage according to the need of the classes. The next important feature is the learning outcomes. As teachers, we should be very clear about the learning outcomes that may be achieved using the learning teaching materials. While using the learning teaching materials, we should ensure that it meets the targeted learning outcomes of the class. The teacher should write specific learning outcomes for the class in which the LTM is to be used to make it more achievable and pragmatic. Once we know how to make an LTM and use it in the class, we become more involved and often can bring about improvisations in what we are using, thus giving birth to many more teaching aids or learning teaching materials. It is highly recommended that teachers should involve learners in using LTM and not just show it and keep it in the almirah. Instead, the teacher can train the learners to make multiple copies of it so all learners can experience it. This also boosts the creativity of the learners. Now let us discuss how to use learning teaching materials. Materials should be relevant and valuable to all learners. They should help learners develop confidence. The learner should be involved in making the learning teaching materials. The learners must be ready to acquire the points being taught. They should expose learners to authentic use of language, and the material should take into account the various learning styles of the learners. Tomlinson, 2011, believes that an impactful learning teaching materials has novelty, that is, useful topics, illustration and activity should be there. It should have variety, that is, breaking up the monotony of a unit that the learners are learning using without an LTM. So there should be variety. There should be attractive presentation. That means the teacher should be able to use it in such a way that attracts the learners. It should have appealing content. The topics that is there in the book, the content should be presented in such a way that it appeals to the learner. And there should be achievable challenge also. That means the tasks which challenge the learners are to be used by the teachers. Now let us discuss some of the popular types of learning teaching materials. The first important type of learning teaching material is the boards. There are many types of boards. Some teachers believe that chalk and talk is the best pedagogy that I can have. There are many types of boards. Initially we had hanging boards. The teachers would take the boards along with them, fold it as a rolling round paper, and they will take it into the class or maybe outside in the garden, and they will hang it from a nail in on a wall or from a tree, and they will write on that. They were one of the most easily available boards. Operation Blackboard was there that almost made this kind of hanging board available to the teachers of all parts of the country. This was replaced with blackboards. Now these blackboards are the part of the wall that was colored using black colors, and teachers would use white chalks to write on that. But the problem with that was that every year it was to be colored, because the colored black color will easily fade with use. This was replaced with green boards. Now these green boards were mostly made of wood, and on the top of that green color was used. This was more permanent than black, and green boards are even now in use. Mostly they use dustless chalks to write on these green boards. This was again this along with this new board was added that was called white boards. They are mostly mica boards of white color on which you use blue or green or red or black color inks. So they are marker pens, erasable marker pens that you use to write on the white boards. And now we have the latest interactive boards. They are computer display come boards. So you can write on the board, at the same time you can display on the board. Now you have also the possibility of record what you are writing on the board along with the display over there. So the part of board can be divided as display device, and the other part can be divided as a writing device. So this interactive board is now more in trend with the advancement of technology in the classroom. Now when you use boards in the classroom, you should be careful about how to use it properly. Many of us think that, okay, board is there, I am capable enough or competent enough to write on this. But as teachers, we should take care of the following things while using a board. The first is the division of the board into different boxes. A single board that is there in the classroom should not be used without division. A teacher should make at least 3 areas on the board. One should be the permanent area on which the fixed information like the name of the class, the strength of the class, the subject name, the date, etc. can be written. This information should be mostly written on the top left corner or top corner, where the reach of the teacher is slightly challenging. The height is more. The second is the rough area, where the teacher makes use of some write-ups which may not be noted down by the learners in the notebook. The teacher may use examples, more examples, illustrations, some small pictures, etc. in that area. There should be a reachable area, maybe bottom left on the board. Then the most important area is the fair area or to be noted area. The learner should know that one part of the board, maybe the second right part, where the learners should write every word that is written there in the notebook. The teacher should give instructions in advance that this is the area that should go into notebooks. So whatever I write here should be written by you in the notebook. Maybe a definition, maybe a calculation, maybe some data, maybe meaning of word or something else. So this is to be noted area. As teachers, we should make it clear in the beginning that what learners should note down and what they should not note down from the board. The second important aspect is neatness of the board. The board should be very neat and clean. The teacher should ensure that they should not write words which may confuse the learners. Maybe writing in a cursive writing of teachers which may not be very legible for the learner should be avoided. Instead, the teacher should use printable kind of text, something that we print using typewriter or maybe a good font like Times New Roman. So when we write on the board, if we can write like a printed text, that will be much easier for the learners to write down without spelling errors or without word related errors in the notebook. So writing in neat legible writing is very important. Also with this comes the visibility, how big or small we should write on the board. As teachers we should write something and go back and check from the last learner's perspective whether it is easily visible to that last learner. If it is visible, the font size is okay. Otherwise, the teacher should write in a bigger font. In any way, a font size less than 50 should not be written on the board, because the bigger the font is, the easy it will be for the learners to note it down from the last corner of the classroom as well. The next important part is accuracy. As teachers, we should ensure that we should not make errors related to spelling, related to grammar, or related to any facts on the board. Because if we make errors, the errors will be multiplied by the learners. The learners, if we make just one error on the board, a spelling error on the board, the same spelling errors will go into 40 notebooks if there are 40 learners in the class. So accuracy is a very important part of writing on the board. We should ensure, double check that the spelling that we have written on the board is appropriate and correct. In fact, we can even ask the learners to point out if there is an error of a spelling. The learners can point it out, that sir, that a spelling error is made in haste, can you correct that? So the learners will also have a sense of belongingness while they are helping us to write on the board. The next important part is making use of drawings or stick pictures on the board. So there are beautiful stick pictures. We cannot make beautiful drawings on the board, but in a small amount of time that we have in the classroom, we can make use of stick pictures, maybe an oval for the head, maybe inverted triangle and a triangle for a girl's dress, and two lines as dots for the girl's legs, and likewise. So this kind of drawing is very easy and can be done, can be created within minutes. So the teachers should make use of drawings because they are interactive, they speak a lot, and learners love these drawings and all. So as teachers, we should know how to make use of drawings. There are many beautiful books written on how to make stick pictures and drawings on the board. As teachers, I recommend that you can go and check these books on how to make drawings on the boards. And the next stage, we should keep on experimenting new things on the boards. Sometimes they call it jerk technology. You can use boards in such a way that that makes the learners alert. For example, writing some words as mirror image. So if we use the word B and like inverted mirror image, O, A, R and D as mirror image, the learners will be slightly alert. So sometimes using very small fonts, bigger fonts, or writing something at the corner. So these are some experimentation that we can do with the boards to make learners alert and active in our classroom. So in brief, use of board is not an easy thing. As teachers, we should know how to make use of the boards appropriately and correctly for the maximum benefit of our learners. So with this, we have come to the end of the part 1 of the video where we talked about boards. In the next part, we'll talk about Realia and how to use them in the classroom situations. Thank you very much. Best wishes. Namaskar.